Travelers of lonely roads, explorers of the great outdoors, workers of creepy jobs and late night shifts. What's your scary story, and why? Was coming out of Death Valley on a cross-country road trip. Nature called and I asked my friend to pull into a gas station. It was a sketchy place, and the bathroom was an infectious disease gold mine. So I decided to go back to the car and wait a few more miles. On the way back, I hear someone say, "Nice shirt," to me. I was wearing a band tee, so I assumed it was a fan. Nope. Clearly a druggie. He asks for cash, and I wave him off, but he follows. I get to my car, let myself in the passenger side, and lock the door. Guy had a knife up his sleeve, tapped the window with it before we sped off. I sometimes think how that could have gone differently if my friend didn't have the door unlocked, or if I was alone, or if the guy was faster to the draw. I carry a knife, but the idea of having to defend against someone with a knife is the most terrifying thing. Shortly after graduating high school, I started working at a fast food place in rural Washington. One night, we had a huge line of customers right up until closing, so doing all of our closing stuff took later than usual. By the time my coworkers finished, I was almost done, but it was already almost midnight, so I told them I could stay and lock up. About 5 minutes after they both left, I heard a knock on the back door, and I was about to open it when I remembered something. If it was one of my coworkers, they wouldn't have knocked. They would have seen my car in the parking lot, assumed I was still there, and just walked in. So this, of course, made me wonder, who would want to be coming into an obviously closed fast food place at this hour? So I asked, "What do you want?" in the manliest voice 19-year-old me could possibly muster. After that, I hear the sound of footsteps just taking off. At this point, I gain the courage to look outside, and I see the outline of a man darting down a back street. A few seconds later, I heard the sound of an engine from that direction. I decided, screw this, and locked up and left as quickly as possible. A few days later, someone was arrested for trying, and failing, luckily, to break into my other coworker's house. News seemed to imply that there was evidence he had been stalking her. And while I never got a clear answer about how true that was, it disturbed me, because I had been covering that same coworker's shift that night. I worked afternoons at a grocery store in college. Once, when the assistant manager was out for a surgery, I was tasked with closing up the store. We closed at 11, and by the time the head cashier and I closed out the safe, cleaned up, and locked the doors, it was 11:45. Middle of February in northern Michigan, so cold as all heck. I helped the cashier clear the snow and ice off her car, and she left. I started clearing the ice off my car, which was an old clunker and took forever to heat up. Our store was located on a main road but in a small town, so there was no traffic and nobody around. Our store closed like 3 hours after everything else in town. This guy comes walking through the parking lot, making a beeline for me. I'm a young, big guy, so I don't feel threatened. I'm on the passenger side of my car, which has the keys in the ignition warming up, and he walks up on the driver's side. "Hey man, any chance I can get a ride? It's awful cold out." He smiled at me, and a chill went through me. There was nothing strange in his look or the way he spoke, but something in his smile freaked me out. I decided I don't want this man in my car. I make up some excuse about needing to pick up a friend and drive them to work. He starts to step around the car with his hand in his coat pocket. I am not a tough guy. I am not at all confrontational, but I did not want this guy near me. So I raise my ice brush, which has the long plastic handle up, and take a step back. "I'm not giving you a ride, and I don't know what you're trying to pull, but I'd rethink it, pal. Real tough guy talk, huh?" He looks surprised and laughs and takes his hand out of his pocket. "No reason to get mad, big man." He turns and walks off, stopping at the end of the parking lot to watch me. My big behind hurried into my car and took off. 2 weeks later, a woman who worked at the movie theater 2 blocks down was found stabbed to death in her car. So far as I know, they never found who killed her. I have no proof, and it's probably just a coincidence, but I feel like it was the guy that I saw. I've never in my life had a visceral reaction like that to a seemingly harmless person. Something wasn't right with him. I had a similar experience. I used to work as a manager at my local Taco Bell. We had 2 people close, me and one closer. My closer always finished earlier than I did. And one of those nights, instead of having them wait for me to finish my closing stuff, I sent them home around 4:30 a.m. and I finished around 5 a.m. I close up and turn all lights off, and I walk out the front and lock the door. As I am about to turn around from locking up the door, I feel a gun placed on the back of my head and hear, "Open the door." I was a bit scared and turned around and told him with a straight face, Homie, we're closed. There's an alarm on, cameras are on, and all the money is in a timed safe which closes at 11 p.m. and doesn't open again until 11 a.m. So try as you want to rob me right now. It's impossible to get money from either me or the store, so shoot away or walk away. I'm too tired for this. Homie just walked away mad and swearing. I inspected vacant houses for banks. Had to document/photo every room, boiler, gas, and electric meter. Vacants that sit empty for long stretches get inspected every month. One house I had been to every month for 2 years had an attic that just didn't feel right. No items up there, just an empty attic with no light source. I would take the photo in the dark, illuminated by only my flashlight. Nothing weird happened for the entire time, but I always took the photo and got out of there as fast as I could, like when you would turn the lights off in the basement as a kid and run up the stairs. I did this job for years, been in dark basements, alone, in silence, multiple times a day, for years. Last time I did that house, I checked the meter like I always do. Dead. Cobwebs on the dial. I photoed the house like I always do. Climbed the stairs to the attic. I reached the top and the door is open. Odd. I get to a point in the stairs where I'm not all the way there, but I can see level with the floor. All of a sudden, a light goes on. There's a light bulb hanging from the center that was never there, and it just turned on as I reached the top. Across from the open door was a mirror facing directly towards the stairs. I saw myself in the mirror for just enough time to see how startled I was, and the light turned off. I have never run so fast out of a house before or since. Every month after that, I faked the inspection with old photos, photoshopped the date stamp. Still get goosebumps thinking about it. I used to work at a movie theater. For closing, there was usually just one person working the concessions and a night shift manager or the actual manager. Cleaning up could be creepy because the concessionist would usually have to clean alone. One night, I was cleaning a theater that had the front few lights out. You couldn't clearly see one corner. There was someone in the corner. I wouldn't normally mind because some people like to watch the entire credits. They got up and started walking toward the screen, which I thought was odd. The shift manager turned off the music, which was pretty jarring. I turned to see if she was in the booth, and she wasn't. I turned back around and the person was gone. I left the theater because I was still pretty creeped out. The shift manager came over. I told her about what happened. We grabbed some heavy wooden brooms and went to look behind the screen. Nobody there. The only other exit was the emergency exit. They couldn't have left from there, or the emergency warning would have gone off. We stuck together the rest of the night. A year or so later, we found out there was actually a tunnel type thing that connected 3 of the 4 theaters. The entrance to the tunnel was behind each of the screens. Didn't like to think about who that was or how they might have known about the tunnel. Probably just someone who once worked there and discovered they could watch free movies by sneaking around, but it doesn't change the fact that this experience was very creepy. When me and my sister were teenagers, we were on a road trip with our parents in the mountains, British Columbia, Canada. It was the middle of the night, and we pulled over to a rest stop for a break. It was pitch black, no towns anywhere nearby, just trees and mountains. My mom was driving and had reclined her seat for a nap, then decided to get out of the car for a minute, probably to stretch. She jumped back in the car and said she heard someone. I remember my dad kind of laughing because we were in the middle of nowhere. She turned on the headlights, and there was a man standing right in front of the car. Seat still reclined. She started the car and drove off very fast. It was terrifying. No idea why he was there, but we didn't stick around to find out. Reminds me of my story. Out cross-country skiing in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by forests, and 10 kilometers to civilization. The track is dimly lit, so you can see where you're going, but apart from that, the forest was pitch black. As I race across a plain, I suddenly realize something moving in front of me inside the forest. My heart immediately jumps. There are bears around, but they stay away from humans. As I get closer, the figure stops moving. About 3 meters from the track, its silhouette just barely visible from the dimly lit path. When I race past, I realize it's a man standing there, just outside where the light reaches, knee-deep in the snow, just watching me go past. Needless to say, my adrenaline gets pumping, and I get the heck out of there. I don't know why he was standing there, just outside of the light and the snow in the night, but I didn't plan to stick around to find out. For my own sanity, I'll deduce that he was going to the bathroom. The only issue with that is that there were no tracks going out to the snow, so he came from the forest. That raises the question, does an unhinged, frostbitten, homicidal maniac poop in the woods? I was hiking in the woods of North Georgia, and I ran into a massive black bear on the trail. He ran off, but I saw him 15 minutes later. He runs off. See him again. Runs off. I sit down to eat. Bear comes back. I throw rocks and he runs off. I keep moving down the trail, run into a hiker coming the other way. He tells me bears are up ahead and wants to camp with me. I tell him bears are behind me and I want to camp with him. In the morning, I hike up the trail for 10 minutes and see 2 bears. Keep hiking, see another bear. Bears everywhere.
That's going to have to do it for this episode of Spooky Stories by Mania. We had a lot of fun making this, so I definitely want to make more of this stuff in the future. If you like this stuff, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye.